Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Just Love Them podcast. I'm your host, Shiree Best. Join me to discover how to stay connected, how to find healing, and how to deepen your relationships with the people you care about who have made different religious choices than you have. Recently in church, a neighbor of mine told a story about when she was a young divorcee and had moved into a ward, and her boss happened to be in that ward. She hated her boss. He was mean, he had a foul mouth and a temper. She very much disliked this man. Shortly after she moved in, a new bishopric was called, and you guessed it, her boss was made the bishop. She couldn't raise her hand and support him. She did not want him to be the bishop. She also didn't raise her hand to oppose. She did nothing. But when the meeting was over, she found a friend of hers who was in the stake high council, and she went to talk to him about changing wards. She could not stand to be in the ward that this man was in. She already had to put up with him at work. She didn't like him, and she just couldn't be in a ward where he was the bishop. So she asked her friend, what do I need to do? Can I just go to another ward? Do I need to do something and have my records changed? What do I need to do? I will not have this man be my bishop. I can't. I won't do it, she told him. She told him all about his temper and his foul language and how mean he was. And the high councilman listened. And when she was finished, he told this young mother that he had known this man's father and that this man was very mild in comparison to his father. This brand new bishop had been on the high council with this man that she went to talk to. In their meetings, he would tell the other high councilmen about how hard it was for him to control his temper and how hard it was for him to control his mouth. And he often asked the other high councilmen to pray for him. This high councilman shared this information with this young mother, and it softened her heart. So she went to her new bishop, who was also her boss, and she told him everything that she'd said to her friend who was on the high council, and also what he'd said back to her. This new bishop admitted that he knew that he had many flaws, but that he would try to do better. And he asked her to pray for him. Guess what? She stayed in the ward. Her heart had been softened and her paradigm changed. We never know what someone else's story really is, why they are the way they are, or why they do the things they do. About 15 or 20 years ago, I went out to lunch with a bunch of my friends. We got talking, as girls always do, and we got talking about our weaknesses. It was a very vulnerable conversation. Some of the women were talking about how they realized how judgmental they were and how hard they were working on trying to change. I piped up and I said, well, I'm not judgmental. I have lots of other flaws, but being judgmental isn't one of them. Whatever. Such a blind spot. It was such a blind spot that I couldn't even see it at all. My friends were very gracious because I'm sure they could see more clearly than I could, and they didn't contradict me. But even as I was saying it, I felt a little tug by the Spirit that maybe I should examine my life and see if that was actually true. Once I focused on it, I soon realized that not only did I judge other people, I did it constantly. I was shocked. That was probably 15 or 20 years ago, and I'm still working on it today. It's so easy to judge others. We don't even realize we're doing it. With our people we love who've chosen to leave the religion we once shared and that we've chosen to stay in, are we judging them? Are we criticizing, weighing in on their choices and finding them wanting? One of the interesting things about judgment is we rarely think, I'm being judgmental right now. We think, I'm just noticing, or I'm just concerned, or my personal favorite, I'm just trying to understand. And sometimes trying to understand means we've already written a 12-page biography explaining why that person is the way they are. So how judgmental really am I? How judgmental are you? Would you be willing to take a little quiz to find out? I know that's a brave move, and I'm inviting you to be brave. Here's a simple self check-in. 10 questions for you to honestly evaluate about yourself. Because when we judge others, it affects ourselves and it affects the relationship. And since we're trying to do everything we can to have a good relationship, wouldn't it be good to know? I'm going to ask you 10 questions, and I invite you to identify that you rarely do this, you sometimes do it, or you frequently do it. So keep track. 10 questions, rarely, sometimes, or frequently, and how many of each you get. This is simply an opportunity to notice what may be happening in your own heart. Number 1, when someone makes a choice I disagree with, I find myself thinking, why would they do that? Is that something that you think rarely, sometimes, or frequently when faced with this situation? When someone makes a choice I disagree with, I find myself thinking, why would they do that? Number 2, I make assumptions about why someone behaves the way they do, even though I don't know the whole story. Do you do this rarely, sometimes, or frequently? Number 3, I find myself criticizing someone's choices, appearance, parenting, lifestyle, or priorities in my mind. Rarely, sometimes, or frequently. Number 4, when someone leaves a religion or a belief system I still believe in, I wonder what is wrong with them or what they are missing. Rarely, sometimes, frequently. Number 5, I compare someone else's choices to what I believe they should be doing. Rarely, sometimes, or frequently. Number 6, I sometimes feel that my way of thinking, living, or believing is better or more correct than someone else's. Rarely, sometimes, or frequently. Number 7, I have formed an opinion about someone without knowing all the circumstances behind their choices. Have you done this rarely, sometimes, or frequently? Number 8, even when I don't say anything out loud, I sometimes criticize or condemn people in my thoughts. Do you do this rarely, sometimes, or frequently? Number 9, when someone disappoints me, I tend to focus more on what they did wrong than understanding why they did it. Do you do this rarely, sometimes, or frequently? And number 10, I sometimes struggle to simply love someone without needing to agree with, understand, or approve of their choices. Rarely, sometimes, or frequently. Okay, let's add up the points. So add up all the rarelies, they get 1 point each. Add up all the sometimes, they get 2 points each. And add up all the frequentlies, they get 3 points each. You might pause this while you're adding it up. If you got 10 to 15 points total, you are rarely judgmental. You appear to have a good awareness of the tendency to judge others. If you got 16 to 23 points, you're sometimes judgmental. You're probably like most of us. You don't intentionally judge people, but you may find yourself doing it more often than you realize. Awareness is the first step toward change. This I know. If you got 24 to 30 points, you're frequently judgmental. You may have discovered a blind spot, just as I did. This isn't a reason to feel bad about yourself. It's an invitation to become more curious, compassionate, and willing to leave judgment where it belongs with God. One final question about the quiz. What might change in your relationships if you stopped trying to figure out what's wrong with someone and instead became curious about what you don't know about their story? And just for the record, I am still very much a work in progress on this topic. It's probably why I needed to talk about it. And you might be saying, yeah, okay, Shiree, but what about that scripture that says to judge righteous judgments? Don't we need to make judgments all the time to discern a situation or the character of an individual? Valid point. The Joseph Smith translation of Matthew 7:2 says, "Judge not unrighteously, that ye be not judged, but judge righteous judgments." So, what's the difference between righteous and unrighteous judgments? Righteous judgment means using God's truth and fairness to evaluate a situation. It means not making fast, unfair guesses based on what things look like on the outside. Righteous judgment evaluates a situation or a behavior. Unrighteous judgment condemns the person. Unrighteous judgment moves beyond discernment into condemnation. So when we assume we know someone's motives, character, heart, or eternal standing, we're using unrighteous judgment. Righteous judgment is discerning what's right and appropriate for us to do. Unrighteous judgment is deciding what's wrong with someone else. Righteous judgment judges a person's behavior without judging that person's heart. Righteous judgment helps us discern what we should do without condemning someone else for what they have done. When we have loved ones leave the faith, we may disagree with their choice. We may set boundaries for ourselves, or we may decide how we will respond without deciding that we know their motives, their heart, their happiness, their worthiness, or their eternal destiny. Let us leave those judgments to God. Mormon 8:20 says, quote, "Behold what the scriptures say, man shall not smite, neither shall he judge. For judgment is mine, saith the Lord, and I will repay." Unquote. We don't have to stop discerning. We want to exercise righteous judgment. We just need to stop taking God's place as the final judge. All those years ago, I thought I wasn't judgmental. And all these years later, I'm still working on it. So if you took that quiz and discovered you're more judgmental than you thought you were, welcome to the club. I'll be the president. Apparently, it's a position I have plenty of experience for. I found that in my own life, the more I let go of unrighteous judgment, the more space is freed up inside of me for feeling love toward others. And so I continue on this lifelong quest to love others and not judge them, because that's what I'm hoping people are doing for me. And isn't it what we all want, regardless of the choices we make? I hope you found this episode valuable. I invite you to share it with someone else. And I invite you to join me again next time for another episode of Just Love Them.